if he ran the combine and ran a 4.4, would we be surprised if we're talking about him in the back end of the first round and not a guy like Sky Moore? Just kind of goes to show you he has a really well-rounded skill set.
Guys, this next player we got to talk about, David Bell, wide receiver from Purdue, is a challenging discussion because you watch him on tape, you see a lot of really likable things. 6'0", 212, pretty big, dense wide receiver. But he went to the NFL Combine and ran a verified 4.65 in the 40-yard dash. And when you have the conversation about projecting receivers to the next level, the ability to separate at the next level is always one of those hot button topics you got to make sure a guy does or doesn't have. And for David, he played at the Big Ten. There were a lot of teams that like to play off and give some free release at the line of scrimmage. There's not too many teams that have the athletes at the corner position that are going to trust that we're just going to play up in your face for an entire 60 minutes. And then he runs a 4.65, and you knew he wasn't going to be a dynamic athletic skill set. But I guess, where do you guys find solace in David Bell's game to help us get to an 81.75 consensus grade for him as a firm second-round grade amongst our entire group?
Well, I mean, you could watch the tape and realize that this wasn't the most explosive wide receiver in this class, but you can also watch the tape and see a lot of separation. I think this guy's a really technically refined route runner, and he just knows how to set up his route breaks and understands how to adjust on the fly against zone coverage, and I think he does create separation. And I know that he was it was a benefit to him to not see a whole lot of press coverage and a lot of off coverage. That's a very good point to bring up, but I thought he found ways to get open in college, and the consistency at the catch point is what I love as well. I mean, he's got strong, confident hands, catches the football away from his frame, just a very, very natural receiver in terms of hauling it in, and I love that component of his game. And so, no, he's not going to win foot races down the field, but I've got size, ball skills, and I think a good, technically refined route running skill set here that gives me a lot of optimism. I mean, his athletic profile is not really all that dissimilar to a guy like Cooper Kupp, who's just had the greatest receiver season in the history of the league. And so I think there's a way for a player with this type of athletic profile to succeed and be productive because he knows how to get open and catch a football.
You mentioned Cooper Kupp, but a guy that comes to my mind is Keenan Allen. In terms of,
good call.
Keenan Allen's not running a 4.4 or even a 4.5. He is I want to say he ran a 4.7 coming out in 2013. And so with David Bell, look, do you wish he was faster? Sure. But as Joe mentioned, he separates all levels of the field. He's separating on the short, he's separating underneath and intermediate, but also vertically you see him get over the top of defenders, and the ball skills are there, being able to track the ball deep, but more importantly, when he's going across the middle, his ability to make catches in traffic is outstanding. Tough. I mean, there is no alligator arms with this kid. He is catching the ball, extending his hands, and not shying away from contact. And so I really appreciate this player. I think he's good after the catch, both strength and quickness. I think he makes defenders miss. There's a lot to like. This is a guy who, if he ran the combine and ran a 4.4, would we be surprised if we're talking about him in the back end of the first round and not a guy like Sky Moore? Just kind of goes to show you he has a really well-rounded skill set.
Yeah, and I think about the Notre Dame game in which he got knocked by Kyle Hamilton coming across the middle, and great deal of respect for, as you mentioned, the toughness across the middle of the field that he showcased there, and the Notre Dame game with the ball adjustment where he's parallel to the ground, reaching up over his head, making a catch in that environment. And then you foil that with some of the games against like Iowa, who plays a ton of quarters and cover three, right, where they got deep back-end coverage, and he's getting to work those intermediate routes. He's working back down the stem, a lot of clean work at the top, and then what he does after the catch, where he's challenging corners, 212 pounds. I expect him to be dense. I didn't expect him to be 212 pounds. But you think about that layer to his game as well. So this is one of those receivers, I think what's really important is to acknowledge the style of offense that he goes into is going to be pretty important to what kind of role he's going to take early on and how much success that he could potentially have. So if you guys think about different stylistic offenses, whether it's a lot of the deep set passing, play action with shot plays down the field by design, I'm already getting a reaction here. So when you think about David Bell, style of offense that you like him best in, what's in your mind?
I like him more from the quick hitting offense. You know, I want to get him on those quick slants, those end breakers, those comeback routes. Allow him to use that physicality and that play strength and that contact balance. So you talk about going across the middle. He absorbs some hits and be able to keep his balance, stay on his feet, and then get yards after the catch. I want to use him as that quick kind of possession receiver. Yeah, you can take some shots downfield with him if you get that one-on-one, depending on the corner, of course. I think it's a play against Michigan State where they pressed him, and his footwork at the line of scrimmage, what impressed me was how he moved the corner, just literally made him do a whole zone turn, got into his stem, and it was over from there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I see him as a quick-hitting kind of possession receiver.
This is also a very high intangibles guy. Every review that I've ever gotten off David Bell off the field is that he's an outstanding young man and definitely the kind of guy that is going to make it very easy in the draft process to say we're not going to have any concerns about him coming in and being a consummate professional. And he's originally from Indianapolis, so his decision to go to Purdue was rooted in a lot of the right reasons to stay in that community, and he's very involved in that community there. So really likable player on and off the field. David Bell, wide receiver, Purdue.